Hi everyone, I'm Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist Ian Cassette with the latest on our unusual December storm, where we are going to be seeing some heavy rain. As you can see behind me, that's going to continue through the evening hours and overnight. This is generally going to be an evening event, an overnight event, with especially the higher threshold for severe weather being overnight. So this is our downtown Orlando camera. We've got many cameras across our region, all capturing the same image: gray skies and heavy rain coming down. So we're guaranteed to get rain. Not many days you have basically 100% chance of rain, and that's what we're seeing with this. So you look at the satellite imagery and you can see where our system is. The sun is setting, so that's why it's fading out, but it is currently over the eastern Gulf of Mexico. There are plenty of storms that way. Once this does move onshore, which is expected to be in the late hours of this evening, before midnight, that is when we will see that severe jump in terms of the heightened threshold. So we are going to have a higher threat of severe weather beginning in the late hours of the evening and then continuing overnight. So the latest from the Storm Prediction Center, they have highlighted our entire area with a threat of severe weather. The yellow area, that is 2 out of 5. That means that there is a little bit higher potential for severe weather. What we're going to be watching for: damaging winds and maybe even some isolated tornadoes. Now, I'm not expecting a widespread tornado event with this. There are a number of limiting factors, including, if you've noticed, it's a little cool outside. Usually does not help in terms of severe weather, but there is enough going on in the atmosphere that we could overcome that and still have a few isolated tornadoes. What's probably going to be a more likely threat will be those winds, and in addition, we have potential for some flooding here tonight. A lot of rain coming down, so that's why we do have a Fox Storm Alert Day that's going to continue again on Sunday, though most of the bigger part of the event will be into the early morning hours of Sunday. By Sunday afternoon, the rain will be all gone. So when we're looking at the possible hazards, these are the three main things to what we're going to be watching for here tonight, and why we encourage you to be weather aware and absolutely have a way of being notified. There's that isolated tornado threat, which that is going to continue into the overnight hours. You want to get to an interior room if we do get a tornado warning, and then move away from windows. Now, this may be when you are falling asleep, so have multiple ways of being alerted, including downloading our Fox 35 Storm Team app that can notify you of tornado warning for your area, so that if you know you need to take action, you can. Definitely make sure you have that plan in place. Wind damage also a possibility here tonight. Within the strongest of storms, they could bring 60+ mile/hour winds. So we're going to be watching for debris on the roads, down trees, which could also lead to down power lines, and you want to avoid those. Finally, we do have a flooding threat with up to 6 inches of rain possible. This is on the highest end of the threat. So I would expect most areas to be in that 2 to 4 inch range by the time we're done with this by Sunday morning, but there could be some higher totals that could reach up to 6 inches. Always remember, turn around, don't drown. So if you experience some flooding in the overnight hours and it continues into tomorrow morning, maybe you want to head to church, some of those roads you may take could be flooded, especially if they've flooded during big rain events during the summer. Kind of use that as a gauge of whether it would be flooded getting a high rain event like tonight's. Another way of visualizing this in terms of our threats, the two most likely threats from this in terms of most people experiencing this to some degree: heavy rains with 2 to 5 inches area wide, coastal flooding as well. This is kind of a forgotten thing. This is basically like a tropical storm. So it's not officially tropical because it doesn't meet the definitions of it. We don't have warm enough ocean temperatures, but we do have a very strong low pressure system that's going to develop overnight that, with winds piling on shore, that when coupled with high tide could lead to large breaking waves and coastal erosion, along with some coastal flooding along our Atlantic coast. So that threat is there regardless of what we see in terms of the severe threat. Tornadoes, that is also a possibility. I still don't think it's the most likely threat, but it is certainly possible here into the night, with likely fast-forming and fast-moving tornadoes, because this storm is going to be booking it. So if there were to be a storm that develops a tornado, it's going to be moving quickly, which is why it's very important to take action immediately. We will be on air and covering this for you if there were to be tornadoes in our area or any tornado warnings. The gusty winds, they're here as well. You notice it's been breezy the last few days. It's only going to continue to be very gusty tonight. We have wind advisories in place running from the coast inland to Orange County, where we could see winds up to 45 miles per hour. hour. This doesn't even necessarily have to be within the storm. And then we also are looking at 50+ mile/hour winds along the coast. It is going to be very gusty. So let's get into the hour by hour with our model run. This is the latest model run through this evening. It shows the widespread rain. That's going to carry through dinner time. No dinner outside. You're going to have to be inside here into the night. Good movie night maybe for you. And then as we go into the overnight hours, once we get into the late evening, we'll start to see some of those heavier downpours moving from the southeast. We've got this onshore flow, some heavy thunderstorms from Melbourne to the west towards Kissimmee. This is all going to continue to develop as we get into the night. We're going to start to see that low pressure getting closer. So with this low pressure system getting closer, we've got higher threshold again for severe weather. So these storms are going to get a little bit more intense, especially first near the Gulf Coast from Tampa Bay northward up into our Fox 51 area, Levy County, Dixie County. These are areas that will first see that potential for waterspouts. There could be storms that form waterspouts that move onshore. That we'll be watching for by about 9 to 10 o'clock. And this low pressure system will then move onshore, and those same storms are now moving inland. So by midnight, Ocala to the Villages, Leesburg, Claremont, these storms may be potentially supercellular, where we watch for a strong line of storms. These storms could be producing tornadoes. That is the potential for the tornadoes and those winds. Now, I don't think every storm is going to, again, produce any tornado, but they have better ingredients there for that potential. So that would be through midnight, then pushing through Orlando by about midnight to 2 a.m. And as we get to 2 a.m., given the quick movement of this low pressure system, much of the storm activity will probably be near the Cape, where we also still do have that higher potential for severe weather, with severe winds from potentially Melbourne to Cocoa Beach up to Palm Coast. After we get through this period, that low pressure system will continue to lift northward, and there really won't be much else left over for rain chances aside from those near the coast. So from Titusville down, you see that pink, that shows you there's still potential for some strong thunderstorms early in the morning, 5 in the morning along the Cape. So we will watch those as well with that potential for severe weather, the winds and that tornado threat, as we do have that front kind of pushing along, this low pressure system bringing a division of air. We have a warm air mass and we have a cooler and drier air mass that's moving in. That's why the rain's going away. It's because that cooler and drier air is getting pulled in. But where that separates, that's where that higher threat for severe weather will be. Then by 6 in the morning, maybe a few more showers. We're really going to have the gusty winds. They're going to be present. They're not going to go away. Even once this system does exit through 9 a.m., we're just seeing those post-system winds behind the system. All the winds coming out of the west, they will be very gusty, as we do have wind advisories that will continue for our area until 3 in the afternoon. With the ingredients I mentioned, the limiting factor would be how much instability we have. You look at our Fox model, it shows you that the instability will increase as we get to about 9 in the morning, all right, 9 tonight to 1 in the morning. But once we get to 2, 3 in the morning to 5 in the morning, that's where I do think we have the highest, or at least biggest amount of instability available. But most of it, or at least the highest levels of instability, will probably be offshore. So not great for the fishes. There could be some of the strongest storms that are offshore, but still that potential lies inland. And then as the system moves through 8, 9, 10 in the morning, it's now out of the way. The winds, they'll be gusty regardless. So looking at the winds through this evening, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds will continue. We already have wind advisories along the coast. That's where the strongest wind gusts will be. Midnight, we're looking at winds of up to 30 miles per hour in Bushnell. Same story along our coast. And then by 6 in the morning, here comes the system pushing through, pulling those winds out of the west. It'll switch direction, and then we'll still continue to see those strong wind gusts all the way through the morning and into the afternoon. 4 o'clock, still wind gusts up to 30 to 35 miles per hour there, as our Fox model shows. But how much rain will we get? Fox model indicating good potential for some very heavy rain. 2 to 4 inches of rain for most areas, but if you're able to squeeze out the most out of these storms, this could be areas of 6 inches of rain. And as our Fox model shows, Titusville along Brevard, I would think that there's a good chance of some very, very heavy downpours here, especially with that onshore flow through the first part of the event. So we may have flooded roadways. You'll have to be wary of that. Tomorrow morning could have some roadways that are impassable with that flood threat. So we will have a flood threat here into the night, and that will continue to tomorrow morning. This will be a rainmaker, and some of us, especially closer to the Gulf Coast, do need the rain. That's an area that did not see much rain here in 2023. A little bit closer on those threats, Brevard County. Tonight into Sunday morning will be the worst weather impacts, the winds, along with that isolated tornado risk, with rainfall up to 2 to 4 inches of rain. Elsewhere, A glance at Marion County, Ocala, Reddick, McIntosh. This is where we could have that threat of flooding as well with the isolated tornado risk and gusty winds that will continue into the night through tomorrow morning. Could be watching that flood threat going on into about 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning when that rain finally exits. And then Orange County, also, we're going to be watching for the winds. That isolated tornado threat will be possible with up to 2 to 3 inches of rain. I could see some areas getting up to 4 inches of rain. We'll have improved forecasts as we get through the day on Sunday. Rain will be gone pretty much by about 9 in the morning. Most areas will be drying out, and then the afternoon will just be windy. As we look ahead, Monday, we'll start to see some cooler air behind the system, lows falling back into the 40s to low 50s, and then we'll see those highs in the 50s and 60s. Our coolest day of the season so far, potentially on Tuesday, but drier weather, so we get a break from all of this rain.
Stay safe and track storms with the Fox 35 Storm Team app.